Okay, grade 8. This is lesson 3 in chapter 3. Okay? The title of our lesson is Equations in y equals to mx. For you to be successful here, you have to remember things we learned in grade 7 and also things we learned in lesson 1, lesson 2 of chapter. Actually, no. Everything we have learned from chapter 1, chapter 2, up to now. Every lesson before now, you need it to solve here. Okay? So, our new vocabulary: direct variation, constant of proportionality. Okay? By the end of this lesson, you should know how to explain direct variation. You should know when I ask you what is the constant of variation, what do I mean by that? You should know when I ask you what's the constant of proportionality, you should know what that means, okay? You must know how to read. You read incorrectly, that means you write incorrectly. You write incorrectly, that means you solve incorrectly. So reading is also important. We must know how to read. And not just read and understand. Okay? So, we start. Alright. Excuse me. Okay? Now we are here. I started this lesson by reviewing the names of slopes. It is important that we understand, and I think from now on until the end of the book, we will be talking about slope. Alright. So, as we have seen, slope can be called a constant rate of change in y over change in x, ratio of the difference in y to the difference in x, per rise over run for every y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, m, coefficient of x, unit rate. Okay? Now, as you can see, our names keep on going. The more we keep moving, the more names we keep getting. Now, when it comes to this lesson, these three names of slope, that means constant of proportionality, constant of variation, and k, we only use when we are talking about direct variation. So when we are talking about direct variation, these are the only names you should use. Okay? Maybe you should also use M. Yes, you can use M over here also. And M. Okay? So these are the names you should use when we are talking about direct variation. Alright. An equation that is written in this form, that means y is equal to mx. You have y on one side and mx on the other side of the equal. You should not see any other way, just this way. So it can be written as y equals to mx, or because of which property? Which property allows me to write it like this? Commutative property. Okay? Because commutative property says you can change your order. But the correct way is to write like this. I'm not saying they won't give it to you like this. I'm just saying as long as y is by itself and mx is by itself, then this equation shows direct variation. Okay? So, the equation that is written as y is equal to mx is called a direct variation. That is what it is called. Okay? Also, it cannot be written as this: y equals to mx plus b, or y is equals to mx minus b. You should not write it like that. It should only be written like this, y equals to mx. Okay? It also cannot be horizontal. This line will never be horizontal. It can also not be a vertical line. Okay? You cannot write it like this, y equals mx plus b or y equals to mx minus b. And you also cannot use a horizontal line or a vertical line. It will always be a diagonal line. So, a diagonal line going up or a diagonal line going down. So the only lines that should be are diagonals. Either the one going up or the one going down. It cannot be a horizontal line. Horizontal line is like this. And it cannot be a vertical line like that. It cannot be. It must be diagonal down or diagonal up. Okay? So we are saying it is called a direct variation. There. It also cannot be zero. That is why we are saying you cannot write the horizontal line. It cannot be a zero slope. The slope must be positive or negative. Okay? We should write that. Positive slope. Positive slope or negative slope. Or negative slope only. Those are the only slopes you should get. A positive number or a negative number. Okay? So, I just wrote for you over here. You can write it as y equals to mx. Y is equals to mx. Or it can be written as y equals to kx. If you see a k, I am asking you for the constant of proportionality. That's what k is, which is another name of me saying find the slope. Okay? So it can be written like this or like that. Okay? Alright. So now we're here. Explain the meaning of direct variation. So when I say direct variation, I mean y, you start with your y, varies directly with x. Now I'm explaining. Okay? So how will I know I have a direct variation? One, the relationship of y and x must be linear. That means there must be a constant rate of change. Okay? That means when x is increasing, y is also increasing with the same value. Or when x is decreasing, y is also decreasing with the same value each time. Okay? So, one cannot increase and the other one decrease. No. Both of them, x should be increasing, y should be increasing. If x is decreasing, y should also decrease. You can't have increase and decrease and then decrease and increase. No, they have to be the same. They have to do the same thing. Okay? So we said it must be linear. It must be a straight line. it must be proportional. What do I mean by that? If I take all my points, and I divide the y by the x, I should get the same number each time. Okay? You cannot add or subtract anything to the equation. That's what we said here. You cannot add or subtract anything to the equation. If it is from a coordinate plane. What is a coordinate plane? Like this. This is called a coordinate plane. Don't call it a graph. Coordinate plane. Okay? If it is from a coordinate plane, the line should go through the origin. The line should go through 0, 0. It can only go through 0, 0. If it doesn't go through 0, 0, then it is not a direct variation. Okay? Now let us write some examples of how the equation can look. So you write y is equals to a half x. So your slope is a half. So the slope here is 1/2. You can write it as a fraction. You can write it as a decimal. You can write it as a mixed number. You can write it as a what? With a negative integer. So, there. So it can be a fraction, a decimal, a negative, a positive, a mixed number. So, m, your slope can be at any rational number. Slope can be any rational number. What does that mean? Integer, fraction, decimal. These three. Integer, fraction, decimal. Negative, can be a negative decimal. Can be a negative fraction. Y equals to negative 0.47x. Y is equals to negative 5/8. We already negative 5/8x. Remember, there has to be a y, there has to be a number, a coefficient. There has to be a coefficient and there has to be x. Y equal coefficient x. Okay? Now let us look at this question over here. Okay? As we read the question, determine if each graph models a direct variation. So what are they asking you? Do any of this graph make a direct variation? That's what you're supposed to say. So here I look at my graph. I don't see x, I put it. I don't see y, I put it. I don't see 0, I put it. X, y, 0. Y, 0, x. Okay? Alright. Is graph A a direct variation? Yes. Graph A is a direct variation because the line is straight. So there's two reasons you have to say them together. One, because the line is straight and it passes through the origin. Okay? So that's the reason why graph A is a direct variation. Graph B, no. Graph B is not a direct variation because it does not pass through the origin. The origin 0, 0. Okay? Then let's look at graph C. No. Graph C is not a direct variation because it is not a straight line. And I have answered my reason for each of the graphs. Because the question said you have to answer each, not just one, each. Okay? So every graph has its own answer. All right. So let's move on. All right. Go to the next paper. So here, let us read. The weight of a ball on Earth varies directly. So you have to read. Okay? The weight of a ball on Earth. So I have a ball on Earth. Varies directly. This is important. With mass. So I am comparing weight and mass. Weight will be on Y, mass will be on X. So what are we doing? The weight of a ball on Earth varies directly with the mass in the moon. So they took a ball, they measured it while they were here on Earth, then they went to the moon and they also measured it over there. So they did the measuring 2 times. Also, okay, they said we need to look at the graph. So I go to the graph and I can see mass and I can see weight. Then what do I notice? The unit for mass is kilogram. I also notice the unit for weight is pounds. I also notice my graph is not labeled with X, 0, and Y. So this is me looking at the graph and reading the question at the same time. Okay? So, the weight of a ball on Earth varies, what is this? Varies directly with its mass in the moon as shown on the graph. Determine the weight in pounds per kilogram. Weight in pounds per kilogram. I already know this is slope. So now I will write slope equals to, what will I write on top? Should I do rise over run? I can do rise over run. I can do 2 points, x1, y1. I can do proportionality. So first, let me find my 2 points. I can find my 2 points. Let's find the points. Okay? All right. So use points. We will use points. All right. So let's find all the points on the graph. With my ruler, if I go up here, I see 1 goes with 10. 2 goes with 20. So this is 1, 10. This is 2, 20. Let's go to 3. If I go, make sure you're using your ruler. 3 is over here. 3, 30. Let's see if I can get another point. Yes, I have another point over here. 4, 40. So on this line, I have managed to get 4 points. And what are my points? 1 with 10, 2 with 30, 2 with 20, 3 with 30, and 4 with 40. I got them here. After I've done that, what do they want? Weight per kilogram. So what will I write? Weight over kilogram. This line here is what per means. Per means you divide. Okay, weight per kilogram. Okay, my weight is Y, my kilogram is X. So I label XY, 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 XY. So my first one will be 10 over 1. The other one will be, I shouldn't put equal because I don't know if it's equal. The other one should be 20 over 2. The other one should be 30 over 3. The other one should be 40 over 4. All right, 10 over 1 becomes 10. 20 divide 2 becomes 10. 30 divide 3 becomes 10. 40 divide 4 becomes 10. So they are the same. And also my graph starts in 0, 0. So I know I have done correctly. Direct variation. Okay? So what does it want? Determine the weight in pounds per kilogram. So I will say the ball weighs 10 pounds per kilogram. Just like that. The ball weighs 10 pounds per kilogram. Why? Because this is 1. This 10 means 10 over 1. And that's my answer. All right. 8 minutes. So as I read, I write. 8 minutes after Shaker turned on the freezer, the temperature dropped 24 degrees. Dropped. What does drop mean? Is it positive? Is it negative? This is what you're supposed to be thinking as you're reading. The temperature dropped. What happens when the temperature is going up? It becomes hotter. What happens when the temperature is going down? It becomes colder. Why do I need the temperature to drop in a freezer? Because a freezer should always be cold. So drop means negative. And how much is it dropping? Negative 24 degrees. Okay. After 15 minutes, the temperature is 45 degrees. Okay. So after 15 minutes, the temperature has dropped to 45 degrees. If the temperature varies directly with time, at what rate is the temperature dropping? Okay? So, At what rate is the temperature dropping? So you can do this so many ways. You can say 8 goes with negative 24 and 15 goes with negative 45 because the temperature is dropping. Then you do slope is equal to, then you write your y over x, and then you do negative 24 over 8, and then the other one is negative 45 over 15, and you should get 3. Negative 45 divide 15 is negative 3. So how do you explain? For every 1 minute, for every minute, the temperature drops because it is negative. The temperature drops 3 degrees. And that is how you explain that. For every minute, the temperature drops 3 degrees. All right. Okay, let's do question 8. Noor swims 9 laps at 4500th hour. Assume that the number of laps y varies directly with the time in hour x. So that means if I am drawing a graph, here is x, this will be time, because that's what the question said. Time, and the unit is hours. This is 0. This is y. What are we putting? Number of laps. Number of laps. So there is my graph. This is me just thinking after reading. Okay? They asked us to write an equation that represents the situation. So if I want to write the equation, first I need to find per hour. This is not yet an hour because it is not yet a whole. I need to see 1 here. It is not 1. So what will I do? I will write y over x. My y is my laps. My x is my hour. When I divide this, I should get 20. So let us see. 9 divide 4500. I get 20. So for every 1 hour, she should swim 20 laps. That's what that means. Okay? So this is 1 hour, 20 laps. My equation will be y is equal to 20x. That's what the question says. Write an equation. Step 1, equation. Then I continue. Graph the equation. For me to graph the equation, I need a table. So I will draw my table. X and y. Okay, what is my x? I need to label my x. Time in hours. What is my y? Number of laps. You only need 2 points, but do 4. Alright. Can she swim negative numbers? No. Can she swim 0? Yes. If she doesn't swim, that means she did not use time. We cannot measure something she did not do. Okay? And we now know if she swims 1 hour, she will do 20 laps. If she swims 2 hours, she will do 40 laps. If she swims 3 hours, she will do 60 laps. Like that. So then I come to my graph. This will be 1. This will be 2. This will be 3. And then this will be 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Look at my scale. 0, 10. If I wrote 20 here, this should be 40. You go by the same unit rate. So since I wrote 0 to here is 10, I am saying every box is 10. That's what I am saying. Every box is 10. I cannot write 0, 20, and then 30. That will not be correct. 0, 20, 40, like that. 60, 80, 100. If this was 3, 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. If this was 2, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, like that. Okay? Then I plot. 0 goes with 0, is right there. 1 goes with 20, is right there. 2 goes with 40, is right there. 3 goes with 60. My graph did not go to 60. If I extend it, I will be. Then with my ruler, I join my point. You use a ruler, please. Use a ruler. And there is my graph. Did I do what the question says? Yes, I graphed. So to graph, you need a table and then you go to the graph. You cannot come from here and then you go here. La. The table and then the graph. All right, what does it say I do next? How many laps can Noor swim per hour? So I can see here. Noor can swim 20 laps per hour. And there, I have answered all the parts to this question. I have written the equation. I have drawn my graph. I have answered how many laps can Noor swim per hour. All right, let us look here. You will also be asked to compare direct variations, okay? When they ask you to compare direct variations, that means they'll give you 2 or more scenarios. The scenario can both be graphs, 1 table, 1 graph, 2 stories, a story and a graph, like that, okay? Then they're asking you to compare their slopes. What are they asking you? To use inequalities like less than, or greater than, or equal to. That's what compare means. Compare means we use inequalities. And which inequalities do we use? Less than, greater than, or equal to. You should know the word and the symbol. You should know them. All right, let us read this. The cost of purchasing a bag of rice. So we are buying bags of rice. In dollars, the unit we are using is dollars. At Lulu Supermarket, so I am going to Lulu Supermarket, is represented by y equals to 8x. So Lulu is y equals to 8x, okay? The cost of purchasing a bag of rice at Carrefour. So the other place I am going is where? Carrefour. Okay? Is shown on the graph. So I am here. Okay? Which supermarket is a better buy? What does that mean? What does a better buy mean? Does a better buy mean I spend more money or I spend less money? This is a question I should ask myself. Okay, so I go here because I don't know Carrefour's. So I will always go to 1. 1 goes with 5. So for Carrefour, y is equals to 5x. That's the equation. All right. So what will I do? So I will write here Lulu's equation. So Lulu's equation says for every bag, I will pay $8. And then in Carrefour, I will pay for every bag, I will pay $5. Okay? So this is how much I will spend at Carrefour. This is how much I will spend at Lulu's. What is a better buy? Better buy means I spend less money. Better means if you are buying, you want to spend the least amount of money. So the better buy is Carrefour, capital C. Carrefour, because spending $5 is better than spending $8. Spending $5 is better than spending $8. Why? Because 5 is less than 8. And that is how you write. So the better buy is Carrefour, and you say your because. Okay? All right. The cost of buying 32 kilograms of potatoes at the market is 120 AED. So 32 kilograms, I spend 120 AED. Okay? Assume the cost of the potatoes Y. So this is Y. Varies directly with the weight X. Write and solve a direct equation. So first I need to know my slope. Y over X, which is 120 over 32. That should be 3.75, I think. So 120 divide by 32, 3.75. You see, I look at a number and I know my decimal. You should be able to do that too. You don't need the calculator. So there is your slope. Okay? So this is your slope, yes? After you write your slope, what does it want? Write and solve a direct variation. So first you need to write a direct variation. So your direct variation will be Y is equal to 3.75 X. So that is your direct variation. Then what did it say? Solve. What are you solving? To find the cost if it is 630 kilograms. So you will write Y is equals to 3.75, and you want 630. No, before you write 630, write X in brackets. Write X. Then this becomes 3 dirhams and 75 fils times 630 kg. Then you multiply times 630. You should get 2,362.50 fils. If there is no number at the end, put 0, because you're talking about money. Money should have 2 decimal places at the end. AED. Then you write your sentence. The cost of the cost of 630 kilograms is 2,362 and 50 fils. So that's how you answer this question. Okay? All right. Do your examples. See you tomorrow.